University. So, of course, as a student of literature, one reads Derrida, Foucault, Lacan, Julia Kristeva, and so on and so forth. And I realized that here is a country that is so similar to mine in thought and its explanation. So, of course, and from there, it has just taken another turn when I joined publishing. I realized that the world of Hindi in India is far bigger than what we think of sitting in our cubicles at our offices. So if these philosophers are translated to Hindi, most of them are, but a few of their works have been translated into Hindi and other Indian languages. If they would be translated more widely into the Indian language, they would be changing a lot in academy. And that's from where my decision of taking up translating French philosophical works as well as very high quality fiction and poetry came into being. I just met Professor Barbara Kassin at the Jaipur Bookmark 2 days ago. She is the head of the prestigious CNRS, and she very profoundly mentioned that the roads of translation are in fact the roads of silk.
The language of Europe in itself is maybe translation. And maybe, probably, in India, it is the same thing. You know, you have, and we have, and we all us have, cultural languages and works of arts written in these languages. And if we all speak Globish, these works of arts are not the same. They couldn't be perceived the same way. That's why I think that Umberto Eco, you know, it's an Italian writer and thinker, saying language of Europe is translation is perfectly right. And I think it's all the more true here.
It is through translation that we know the best of our own world. And that's why I took it upon myself to get Persepolis into our national language. The reason is very simple. Here is a storyteller who has captured not only her life from childhood, but also the life of her country, from growing into from something of a very progressive country that Iran was into a ghetto of fundamentalism. And that's where I decided that Persepolis is an important book because it has shown us what this world can become if we are not careful, if we do not raise our voice. There is a chapter in Persepolis where there is a news about bombing of Gandhi Square in Iran or Iraq. I may stand corrected there, but that shows the kind of cultural interaction that not only India and France had, but India and her own country had. So that's the common thread in the narrative. So artists and storytellers together in both the countries. India has been a rich land of narratives. Our mythology, our history, our legends present themselves as a great reservoir of learning and knowledge. Here, through graphic artists like Marjane Satrapi and many more like her in France, I think we will be able to come together and begin a new era of storytelling between the two countries.
Thank you very much. It has been an incredible 21st century so far for artistic collaboration between India and France. When India celebrated its 100 years of cinema in 2013, the first major film festival to throw a birthday party was the Cannes Film Festival. It was the same year that the Critics Week parallel section of the Cannes Film Festival world premiered The Lunchbox, which traveled its phenomenal journey like the Dabas in Mumbai.
We hope you must have enjoyed the discussion on cinema and it must have been informative for you. Let's move over to our second panel discussion based on heritage conservation and the cities.
I'm here to talk about the activities of a research center which is based in Pondicherry, and we have one of our scientific production is a quite important collection of photography, an archive of pictures which have been taken since the 60s, the end of the 50s, beginning of 60s, documenting the temples and the gods and the bronzes of South India. Recently that came to be much more known by the public because thanks to that archive we were able to track stolen idols which have been illegally exported and sold on the international market. And to tell such a story, a colleague of ours, Gopinath Srikandan, wrote a beautiful book on which is named Shadows of Gods, and that book tells the story of how our collection have been used to trace and to request foreign countries to give back to India this part of its heritage, which is one of the most important and cultural part of its culture and Indian culture.
Le Compagnie Française des Indes Orientales maintained independent trading posts from the 17th to the 20th century in Puducherry, Chandrinagar, Mahe, Yanam, Karaikal. France, where I had the privilege of studying and my steepest learning curve, brought to India a new way of life: trade, governance, military warfare, handcrafted techniques, creating a cultural diversity which we now define as shared cultural heritage. The tangible built heritage varies from forts and defense installations, public and residential buildings, festive squares, urban artifacts, and even city planning. Intangible influences on culture, including education, pedagogy, trade, art, design, interiors, culinary traditions followed. So there's the tangible and the intangible. Now, for what we've constituted today is a very unusual panel. There are eminent representatives of both the tangible and the intangible patrimony. Professor Chetan Vaidya, the esteemed Director of School and Planning and Architecture, appointed by the All India Council of Technical Education as Chairman of Planning Education Board, Monsieur Bruno Mangoli, Director of École Nationale Supérieure d'Architecture de Paris La Villette. Monsieur Mangoli is the Director of the National School of Architecture, Paris La Villette, since 2013. He's been an architect for built heritage. We are a Kavya Pradhan Desh. For you, a poetry dominated, we listen to the word. The word begins to follow images. Before the material, however, we seek the word. So on my left is Madame Anne Castaigne, a renowned specialist in Indian studies, National Center for Scientific Research at the prestigious Center of Études des Indes et de l'Asie du Sud, focusing mainly on Indian literature and indigenous languages, post-colonial theory, literature, history of Indian nationalism, and India-Pakistan partition. So conservation is at the center of the issue today, both for the language, for literature at one end, many of these that are disappearing by the minute, and for architecture and its future, in which the past has become increasingly vulnerable. How can the two republics of India and France, perhaps even South Asia, I call Sasia, partner with NGOs, non-governmental organizations, educational institutions, specialists, citizens, to nurture shared heritage? It's a question that I would just like to summarize with what has been done by this field Indo-French collaboration over the past very quickly. France has undertaken a scientific study in the walled city of Ahmedabad, and that produced recommendations for the revitalization and conservation of the walled city, besides identifying more than 15,000 heritage properties. It's an MOU between École Nationale Supérieure d'Architecture of Paris and La Villette, and the School of Public Architecture of Delhi has recently been signed to jointly undertake collaboration on joint research and studies that we would really want to know more about. And a literature and conservation of written cultural heritage. In October last year, MOU was signed on digital preservation and conservation of rare written treasures between the two national libraries of France and India. Now, as part of the Bonjour India Festival in 2013, a photographic voyage project, France Heritage, was showcased, mapping layers of entangled architectural history across India inspired by France. With its architecture based on the Palace of Versailles and Fontainebleau, or down south from the forts of Ginji and Kodalur in Tamil Nadu to Tipu's Summer Palace. So there has been a lot of work, but you, sirs, are going to take this dialogue to the next stage. Maybe you want to tell us about it.
I will first focus on the MOU which has been signed by National School of Architecture and SPA Delhi. And we plan to work together on both heritage city conservation as well as city planning and on architecture of these two places. So we plan to exchange of faculty and the students, and we have decided to take up a project together in Agra, where our students and their students and our faculties together will prepare a program for heritage parts of the Agra and really look at how conservation could be a community-based activity. And this is one area where we want to focus it and come out with some recommendations.
Idea that what brings you here and what you're really looking forward to be doing in your field.
Yes, I will try. So first I want to thank you for this very interesting introduction you made about the history and the richness of French, Indo-French relationships. That remind me of a lot of things that I forgot and that I didn't know also. And which make my project, my personal project, a bit more dynamic. So you were talking about my project. I came actually in India within the frame of a project that I am leading with two other academics from Sorbonne University in Paris about South Asian literature. As you said, there is a rich tradition between all the countries in South Asia. So
Before we got politically divided into many countries.
But I
South
really,
Asia. We call it Sasia.
Sasia, okay. So I will try also to use this term. So this project is a project, as you said, of encyclopedia, encyclopedic dictionary of South Asian literature. And so we went to the Jaipur festival in order to, I would say, to pick the atmosphere of what is today Indian literature in India. And there I would not agree with you when you say that there is no, that Indian literature is not really well known in India, because this festival shows that this is very vivid and this is very rich and dynamic, and people are really interested in literature, I think. So to come back to this project, we are planning to fill an emptiness in France about South Asian literature, which are quite not known. I mean, they are known through only English writing literature, South Asian English writing literature, and we want to promote and spread knowledge about South Asian literature, all kind of South Asian literature in indigenous languages and in English, oral and written.
So oral history is oral too.
Oral too, yes. And we want to pick some material that we would put on a numerical platform. You were talking about numerization and this digitalization, sorry, and this would be part of a project also to try to pick some hidden or lost material and to put it on this platform, which would be in French, because we also want to promote Indian literature in France and within the Francophonie, I would say. So we want to be a part of this preservation program on intangible cultures.
The translation between one Indian language and the other, you know, it could be all right that we might learn about what somebody in Tamil Nadu or in Kashmir is saying by your work through French, and we will get to hear more. Not enough is happening between Indian languages, but also because we have so many.
Yeah, that's right. That is completely
It's been
true.
difficult.
Yeah, that is completely true. But a project also is, the purpose of a project is also to make visible Indian literature to a French public, you know, and to promote Indian literature or South Asian literature for a French public first, because it will be in French. Of course, we cannot translate everything. The Sahitya Academy is doing it.
Yeah.
With
Something that could link up both the ends of the panelists. Do you find there's enough literature about architecture, about the Shilpa Shastras, about the Agamas, about those that constitute the code of the built heritage? You know, and also livelihoods and cultural precincts.
Heritage parts becomes most important, and then using the latest ICT techniques and improved infrastructure, where it could work together as a solution for region.
Is there a pilot that you're thinking as part of?
Overall city as far as infrastructure is concerned, and then taking some pilots for bringing in this kind of changes.
Depuis la France et depuis une école d'architecture française, l'Inde représente un champ
One MOU was signed between the two schools of planning and architecture between France and India. And a lot of research is going to take place, for instance, in the heritage area for the city of Agra, for instance, because Agra has many heritage parts to it. So French students are very interested in this. I would like to add that India is of great interest as a general rule to France, and many French students come to India to see how they deal with their problems, because the problems are the same. You have a lot of ancient architecture, you have congestion, you have population, you have urban cities which are growing. In France, we have the same problems, which are there, but to a much lesser degree, of course. So we have a lot to learn from India. French students are very involved and want to know, and we learn a lot from India, so an exchange in learning is always beneficial. Today, in this world of globalization, now information is readily available on different kinds of architecture. But one must understand that the information must be applied after a lot of thought, very cautiously, because the answer